your nature of being on the cutting edge over and over again is certainly some luck, but there probably is personality traits and DNA traits that are connecting that to actually happen, not just once, but multiple times.
Right. Definitely a little...
Robb Wolf is a former research biochemist. The funny thing about your bio and your intro is you've done a lot of crazy, interesting things that seem somewhat connected and unconnected. And even knowing you from Bozeman and then knowing you from jiu-jitsu, I'm like, dude, this guy has done a little bit of every single thing.
I should be taller than 5'9", given my resume, for
I know.
sure.
So a research biochemist, 2-time New York Times bestselling author, one of the leading voices in ancestral health and metabolic performance. Robb has spent 2 decades helping people rethink nutrition, challenging conventional wisdom, and challenging them to take ownership of their own health. Author of The Paleo Solution and Wired to Eat. He's worked with everyone from elite military units to everyday dads, helping them to get their energy back. Robb is also the co-founder of LMNT, one of the fastest growing hydration companies in the world, built around a simple but powerful idea. Optimal performance starts with fixing electrolyte balance. So Robb, welcome to the Mountain Tough podcast. I'm sure there's more that I did not include in that bio.
That was great. That was quite comprehensive and great to be here.
Is there a chunk of that that's like powerlifting world records?
I was California State powerlifting champion in the teenage division back in 1989, and I co-founded the first and fourth CrossFit affiliate gyms in the world. So for people interested in that stuff, I feel a little Forrest Gumpy. Like I showed up at some really interesting places within the last 20 or 30 years of the health and fitness world. Yeah.
Yeah, your timing of being on the front edge time and time again is interesting. Is that something you think is just...
dumb luck?
Is it? Yeah.
Dumb luck. I mean, we work really hard, but my wife and I have talked about this, and it's 51% luck, 49% hard work. And so like an opportunity will pop up, we'll recognize the opportunity. We're fairly risk tolerant. And so we're willing to jump in and give things a go. And so I think that we've just, like CrossFit, it started blogging before blogging had a name. They posted something daily. It was this workout, then it usually came with some information, and it was maybe a year or two downrange of that before somebody called it a blog or a vlog and stuff like that. So, and I was very early in social media, for good or ill. It's just a horrible cesspool at this point. But I've been early in a lot of these trends, and have been able to kind of see some of the opportunities within that and jump in and hopefully provide some value to it also, not just like parasitically existing within it. And I think that there will always be opportunities like that, but I think it would be very difficult today to plug into the world and just like replicate what I did from ground zero, like starting a podcast and getting some traction. Like there was a long time. Our podcast is very small by comparison now, but there was a good 5 years where we were like top 5 in the iTunes podcast, top number 1 in health and stuff like that for quite some time. And I think it would be challenging to just like arrive and carve that out. Like it's a much bigger world now.
Be very difficult.
Yeah.
Very, very difficult. And your nature of being on the cutting edge over and over again is certainly some luck, but there probably is personality traits and DNA traits that are connecting that to actually happen, not just once, but multiple times.
Right. Definitely a little, comfort with some risk. We're not crazy. We try to mitigate downsides and whatnot, but we live a pretty frugal life. And so it's kind of like, hey, this looks like a great opportunity. We'll try to hedge downside, potential against it. Let's get in and give it a shot. And a lot of things haven't worked, but a few things have clicked over pretty well. And I think net that combination of risk tolerance, hard work, and then kind of I look at the world through like economics, thermodynamics, which is just basically like energy flows in and out and stuff like that. And then biology, like how does biology inform the way that the world is? And I think when you run things through that template, it doesn't give you all the answers, but it really it sorts a lot of the world out. Like before we recorded, I talked about like doing some shorting around like the plant-based meat alternative stuff. And I knew that was bogus. I knew that it was complete boondoggle. It didn't matter how many billions of dollars went into that. You were never going to take that and beat sunlight, grass, and cows. It's thermodynamically impossible. And people bet all kinds of money on it. Like I think there was like $158 billion that went into like plant-based meat alternatives. And unless you're in a spaceship flying between the stars, that might be a viable alternative, growing food in a vat. But like when you live on a planet with sunlight and grasslands and cows, you're not going to win that.
You can't compete.
You can't compete with that. And I think I've been pretty good at, running things through that filter. And, you had people like Bill Gates, like super smart people, very wealthy people betting really hard on this stuff. But I think you can have very smart, very wealthy people that get shit wrong, frankly. Yeah.
So I love that because it does tie really well into what I want to pick your brain on today, and related to how you're always seeing ahead of the curve a little bit and how you're able to kind of remove yourself up to that 30,000 foot view and look at a problem and look at it without emotion and really try to understand what is going on and where is this going to head. Because the thing that I've been noticing is, with Mountain Tough, we spend a tremendous amount of time focused a lot on men, but women as well, but on the mind, body, spirit connection. So when we started Mountain Tough, we knew you can't just train someone physically. Mm-hmm. They also need to be looking at their emotional, spiritual, mental, nutritional health, and one cannot be separated from the other with great success. And that connection has started to reveal itself now in even greater and greater and greater ways. And what I see now compared to when we started, so Mountain Tough started in 2016, it's 2026, so we're kind of in this year 10. And the challenges that individuals are facing now are different than they were 10 years ago. And the way that I kind of describe it is, now when I look at a man who has challenges and wants to tackle those challenges so that they can be more of the man that they were meant to be, there is almost like a central nervous system component that we weren't talking about 10 years ago. And the central nervous system component is the distractions of the outside world. And this is gonna be the social medias. It is gonna be the internet. It is gonna be the news cycle. And then there is gonna be probably a knowledge component of knowledge overload, even from the positive side. There seems to be like a caffeine, nicotine element to where now individual has so much information. They know how they should be training. They can find that out easy, but they aren't operating really from a state of rest. They're trying to rest because they're operating so hard. And when they're trying to rest because they're operating so hard, when they do rest, it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And when it doesn't work for multiple years, they kind of crash and burn. And so it's a different landscape now. And that common thread of individuals crashing and burning from knowing what to do, but having like a central nervous system crash makes me believe that we are on the cusp of people realizing that the ancestral ways, those guys had a lot of stuff figured out, and we're crashing and burning because we've cut that from the cloth of society. What are your thoughts on that, and are we at the cusp of something?
Yeah, you couch that and frame it up really well. You probably did a better softball pitch to me than my answer is going to be, honestly. But it's crystal clear that being indoors all day is not great for us. Sitting on our butts all day is not great for us. Lack of community is not great for us. Lack of challenges to dragons to go slay is not good for us, you know? And you just keep adding these things together, and you don't have to get like Liver King living in a loincloth crazy over this stuff to just recognize like some sun on your skin, some exercise, some challenge, some meaningful relationships. If you don't have those things, there's a massive void in your life, you know, and you just feel unfulfilled and depressed. And, you know, then do I need to be medicated? And it's like, no, man, you need a challenge. Or to your point, you need to actually come out of warp drive and relax and plug into your family and plug into your friends. I've had the good luck of having a couple of guy friends here locally that we get together once a month and we go do a coffee hour, and it's like the old dude coffee hour. And I was so missing that part of my life. Like, my wife is awesome, my kids are awesome, jujitsu's great, but just this group of dudes that are, you know, there's some entrepreneurs, there's some law enforcement, you know, it's a mixed bag of people, but the main commonality is we just had this like desire to hang out with some guys and just talk about guy stuff, you know, and plugging that leak in my life was huge. And then what my wife noticed when I came back from that time is like, I was really on point. I was really jazzed. I was really plugged into her, plugged into the kids, which sounds kind of weird. It's like going and spending time with a bunch of crusty old dudes makes you a better father and husband. It's like, yeah, it does, because there's a part of my soul that needs that. And if you look at more traditional cultures, you know, the men and women spend a lot of time with their peer group, and then they come back together and they've got something different that they can offer, you know. So I think that there's a lot of, again, giving a hat tip to the ancestral life way doesn't mean that we live in wear a loincloth or live under a bush or anything like that. It's an acknowledgement that more sun on our skin is better than less. More activity is better than none or less. Some challenges are important. And also downtime is critically important. I love David Goggins, but the guy's like he's trying to commit suicide by exercise. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And it's like, there are times where you just got to unplug. Like however high your high is, you need a commensurate low, and you know, just a system reset and whatnot. And I think that we're at an interesting point where ironically, I think things like wearables and AI could help us. It's like, hey, Rob, you really do need to go outside right now. And like, you set it up so it's like you get no more phone access. I get no more computer access until I go spend 5 minutes outside. Like, we could start layering in some of these coaching and management elements that could help us to plug into some of that. It's like, hey, man, you don't get computer access unless you have your safe word. You know, it's like life or death right now until you go do your exercise. Like, there's some interesting opportunities that could pop up around the use of AI. And even, you know, like I track my HRV and recovery with the Morpheus platform every day. I think it's great. There's other just phenomenal options out there. But like, we'll be able to start plugging that data into some sort of an AI interface. So it's like the Mountain Tough AI, and it's like, hey, Rob, how you feeling today? It's like, oh, I think I slept like garbage. It's like, well, your recovery looks pretty good. I still think I would get after it today. And it's like, okay, you know, and so it's taking like the core technology that you guys have developed with this adaptive intelligence, this adaptive, you know, language model type intelligence that can plug into an individual, look at both objective and subjective metrics, and then give them some feedback and motivation around what they're doing that day. It's like, okay, Rob, that's great. You're going to do your workout, but you got to spend 10 minutes out in the sun with your shirt off. It's it's Bozeman, but we're now, in the window of time where you can make vitamin D outside and stuff like that. And so I think there's some interesting opportunities where some collaborative management can happen with technology that ironically will mainly plug us back into a little bit more of a life way that our grandparents would have recognized. Yeah.
Mountain Tough is the fitness app trusted by the dedicated. Mountain Tough ethos is backed by, we've always wanted to be the best in the world at helping our customers become more mentally tough. So inside the Mountain Tough app, you're not only going to find all of our physical training programs, but you're going to find additional training as well so that you can stay sharp physically, mentally, spiritually, and nutritionally. The Mountain Tough app also allows you to train no matter where you are, anytime, anywhere. Additionally, the Mountain Tough app is going to have programs from beginners all the way up to elite athletes. And all of our programming is structured in a way that you can start with no gear at body weight, and you can go all the way up to programming that is full gear. So you can do that in a robust home gym or your local gym. There's no excuse for you not to start today. With Mountain Tough, you can conquer your goals with the ideal program for your lifestyle and schedule. Train with equipment or just your body weight on your phone, tablet, TV, or web browser. Most importantly, Mountain Tough will help you train your mindset so you are always ready for anything life throws your way. Mountain Tough is offering the Mountain Tough podcast listeners an incredible offer. 6 weeks free on the Mountain Tough app. All you need to do is use the code MTNPOD to redeem your 6 weeks of training. That'll be a 14-day free trial plus a whole additional 4 weeks of training. Just go to mountaintough.com and enter code MTNPOD for your 6 weeks free on the best-in-class physical and mental training app. I think so. And I think it feels a little bit like when I was a kid, my parents' generation, a little bit past them, was that it was more probably like my grandparents' generation was the smoking generation of America. So it was 2-3 packs a day, and they were smoking because it was fashionable, it was trendy, it was a status symbol. It was different than smoking is now, and it nationally it was not seen as any adverse health effects. And then at a certain point in time in world history, we discovered, this stuff can be really, really bad for you. And there is that shift where it's a generation is then able to kind of poke fun at a previous generation. Like, my grandparents used to smoke 2 packs a day thinking it was cool. They smoked in cars. They smoked in airplanes. I feel like we're on that edge right now when it comes to the technology, where it's a generation ahead of us will look back at our generation and they'll say, that generation spent like 7 hours a day on their phone, or 6 hours a day on their phone,
right?
Or 4 hours a day on their phone. They got no sunlight. They spent all their time indoors with very little community or activity or challenge. And when the future generations are saying that, just like we would talk about our grandparents smoking 2 packs a day, those future generations, as they say that, they're going to be like, how did they possibly do that? Right. Like, how did they possibly function? I feel like we're right on that edge right now.
That would be amazing. That would be such a good inflection point, similar to the smoking. There have been some memes that have gone around, like they'll show men and women in their 40s and 50s from that earlier generation, and then people in their 40s and 50s now, and they look like a different species, and it's like, what happened? It's like they drank a lot, like the Dean Martin, Bob, Frank Sinatra period of time, smoked a lot, drank a lot, didn't sleep well, probably didn't eat that, comparatively that great. And so we have so much great information now, and it would be amazing. I had never really thought about it that much, that you just feel like the potential of people being on screens is just going to increase. But what if this, phase shift occurs such that people are actually interfacing less? Maybe we have some sort of like a Google glasses on or something, and we're doing something else, but we're actually outside and doing, getting more connection, getting more activity, getting more sun on our skin and whatnot. I think that would be an amazing inflection point, and it's such low-hanging fruit from like a health and wellness perspective. I'll just throw this one out there. They're great Swedish nurses study. It's something like 125,000 human hours of time tracked in this thing, but it looked at the total sun exposure within this group, and the people who basically there was a dose response curve with regards to sun and sunlight exposure, and the people who got the most sun, they were as healthy and had as reduced all-cause mortality as the difference between a pack-a-day smoking habit and not. So getting inadequate sun negatively impacts one's health as significantly as having a pack-a-day smoking habit.
Dang.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
That is crazy.
And it's hard to pull off. Like even for myself, like we live far north. I have a technology, interface to a ton of my work, so it's not always the easiest thing to do, but it's one of those fairly democratized, fairly easily had things. It's like, well, just go outside. I've leaned on my kids when they do any type of work that's amenable to it. But the one daughter is very into drawing, so she uses Procreate, and she does use an iPad, but she's able to wear some gloves. She uses the Apple Pencil, and then she's out there on the iPad. But she sits on our front porch. Like she's got a beanie on. She takes like kind of a big fluffy blanket, and she wraps herself up. But she's able to sit outside, and she's got like sun on her skin, and she's in a little bit of that like cold, exposure and everything. And she's like, Dad, this is really kind of fun, actually. And then she's got a whole outdoor landscape that she's like, oh, I'm going to draw that tree. And when the dogs are like, doing their thing. And so it's very inspiring for her too. But it just took a little bit of a push and a little bit of planning to be able to make that more of a reality for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, because I've noticed the simplicity of like walking around the block with your family, how much better you feel. Even if it's like a mile and it's cold and it's windy, the substantial differences are astronomical. And that's kind of one big shift I've had, that I've been trying to think through my mind of how I want to make sure I pass down what I've learned to my children based on these kinds of conversations. One thing I've been really kind of thinking about a lot is, like, I want my kids to know that their body and God is kind of telling them everything they need to know. But recently in like my life growing up through this society, it was someone else out there knows everything you need to know. And that is kind of like a mindset shift that I really want my kids to go through, is no, everything you need to know is you have it, or, God is going to let you know that information, rather than always looking for this outside expert. And the outside expert methodology, it can kind of like wreak a lot of havoc on the American man. And I think we're seeing so many symptoms of that. Like an example of that would be And there's a lot of this right now, like an individual in an office all the time, great job, but they're in front of a screen all day. They are then on their phone in the morning, on their phone in the evening, very little exercise, no sunlight. They're going to start feeling really poorly.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to feel poorly. They're going to look for answers. The answers they are going to find are going to be a lot around depression and anxiety type symptoms. The depression and anxiety symptoms are going to have easy fixes with prescriptions. And so that is kind of the example that is happening everywhere. Is it's like, I don't feel good, here's the easy magic pill. I don't feel good, here's the easy magic pill. I don't feel good, here's the easy magic pill. Where really your body, because you weren't feeling good, was saying, hey man, you got to get outside. You got to get some exercise. But when you took that magic pill, most likely you kind of dug this hole a little bit deeper and deeper and deeper, where your body the whole time was like vitamin D, exercise, community. And so that the instant gratification, technology, and just the amount of information has created some unique environments where I've talked to some men recently that have these phenomenal kind of corporate America jobs, and there is this desire all over right now to be like, I just want a homestead.
Right.
And they'll say things like, I don't care if they pay me $10 million. Like, a man should not be in front of this many screens every day, all day. So there definitely is like some shifts happening.
It's funny, making it now is having enough money so that you can work with your hands, and maybe it makes money, maybe it doesn't, but like that you could go like plow a field and plant some crops and like have some bees and stuff. It is funny what success looks like now. It's kind of like either you can make a go of like a farmstead thing, or you've got enough money that you could do the farmstead on the side, and it doesn't have to, like, you know, it's not a complete black hole financially, but it also doesn't have to totally float the boat. Like, you've got enough other coming in, or you invested and you've got some dividends or whatever that can come out. It is really interesting what success looks like. Like, I'm sure there's still a decent cross section of people that like success is like private jet or this or that. But a lot of people, it's like, I can raise my own food. I could homeschool my kids. My wife wouldn't have to work. You know, like it's a very different world of what success looks like. And it tends to be these very cowboy-esque, experiential, you know, real things. Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, there's an interesting vibe right now. The amount of men that desire like the homestead type concept is at an all-time high right now. And it's because we've kind of pushed the spectrum too far. We've pushed the spectrum, like we kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it when it was the use of technology. And then it's about to really be more disruptive than ever before with AI. And right kind of at that breaking point, we're realizing, wow, I could have been smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day the last 5 years without really realizing it. And I think people are kind of realizing that now. They're like, oh, this is why I don't really feel that great.
Right. It's funny. I've heard some discussions of like the early cell phone, and I had one ages ago. I had a newspaper route around LA, and it was just crazy, you know, like it was giant phone, and you had a battery pack for it, and all this stuff. But people, not infrequently, they would see me with this thing. They're like, "Are you like super wealthy or something?" Like, no, man, I'm a newspaper delivery guy. You know? But early, you know, tech moguls, like they had that cell phone, and then they had the first adoption of these new technologies. But what's really interesting now is there's a ton of these, you know, billion-dollar net worth people that are very, very important. They don't have a computer. They don't have a smartphone. they oftentimes operate with a fax machine.
Mm.
They went completely the opposite direction. They saw what absolute poison that stuff was. Now, it clearly it's useful. Clearly it's utilitarian. What's funny is that these people are very, very wealthy. They're like, all of you guys are going to use all this shit, you know, and it's going to ruin your life and your health, but it's not going to ruin and affect mine. And it's funny, the delta that has occurred there, you know, that people who really plugged in. Steve Jobs famously is like, I would never let my kids play with one of our iPhones, you know? And so it's interesting where these things were once kind of like a status symbol. Now it's recognized to be a shackle, you know? Yeah. It's like it's a sign of servitude, not liberation. Yeah.
Hey guys, I did want to interrupt for a quick minute right here and let you know about some supplements I've been taking. I did shy away from supplements for a long time. I was always cautious about what they were made out of, where they were from, and who the team was behind the brands. But over the last couple of years, I've got to meet the team at Mountain Ops from top to bottom, and they are an amazing group of humans. I've got to know the CEO, Trevor Farnes, really well, and he is a mission-focused individual that cares about humans living a better quality of life so that they can have that abundant life. So over the last couple of years, he has helped me add some things that have changed the game for me. One of those things that I've added is creatine from Mountain Ops. It helps me maintain some muscle mass, but also it's a big, big player in cognitive function, one of the most researched supplements out there. Also, I've added reds, greens, and protein, all from Mountain Ops. What I found as a busy professional, always on the run, I do eat a whole foods diet for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but on the go, it's hard to get enough vegetables, fruits, and protein. So I've added that from Mountain Ops, and it has significantly changed the game. I can feel it in my performance. I haven't got sick for a long, long time, and I can certainly feel it in my mental clarity as well. The last thing I've added is the Mountain Tough Hydrate product for the backcountry, for hunting season. When I'm in the hills, I do run short on those electrolytes. We even have a Mountain Tough flavor, the Mountain Tough Lemon Lime Hydrate, and that is a game changer for hydration in the backcountry. So I keep it really simple. That is all I've added to my protocol, and it has certainly helped me, and I certainly believe in the team and the culture behind Mountain Ops. They have started an initiative that's been around for a while called Conquer Hunger. Conquer Hunger is giving meals to hungry kids that aren't getting enough food, and they've given out over 6 million meals plus to kids through their Conquer Hunger initiative. So every order that happens at Mountain Ops, a percentage of that order goes to Conquer Hunger. So certainly an incredible company, an incredible culture. As a listener to the show, you do get an exclusive offer to Mountain Ops, so make sure you check that out. The offer is incredible as a first-time purchase at mountainops.com. So build your order if it's your first time. They are offering you a 20% exclusive discount. All you need to do is enter the promo code Mountain Tough, all one word, all caps, for 20% off your first order at mountainops.com. Yeah, and it is it left a lot of people, I think, wondering why they were doing the things that almost like there's probably a lot of people that were doing the things that you recommended and spent a lot of your career recommending, with like great nutrition and some great exercise, but we're still feeling a little bit poor. And I think they were probably feeling like a little bit poor because of this like central nervous system overload. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why you see those billionaire examples. They're like, I'm not going to overload my central nervous system, because creativity is what makes a lot of billionaires billionaires. And that creativity is gone if your central nervous system is overran.
Yeah.
And they kind of like saw that early on.
Yeah. Yeah. They saw the potential utility there of like, multiplying their efficacy, and then really quickly it was kind of like, oh, this thing's a trap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's only gotten more. The crap has gotten more crappier.
Yeah.
As the algorithm has gotten more advanced, and that advancement has really put the central nervous system damage on steroids that can happen if you're always plugged into that algorithm.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to continue to feed and feed and feed and feed and feed. And even 7 years ago, that wasn't the case compared to how it can feed you now.
Yeah. And it is interesting, though. Like I've seen recently some optimistic pieces on AI benefiting the workforce. Like there's this thought that it's going to gut work, and there'll be no work left for humans. And I saw this kind of counterpoint, possibility that Bitcoin or something like Bitcoin, that we actually get some sound currency for once, for once in the last 100 some odd years. So we're not living in a debt-based inflation, disaster that's just waiting to happen. And if that happened, and you overlaid not just our usual rate of technological advancement, but this AI technological advancement, we actually get deflationary pressure, and then things get cheap. Like they legitimately get cheap, And it was interesting. This I've seen some very disaster-based, AI predictions, and I've been seeing some more like, hey, here are some of the opportunities within this, and mixed within this. And you're one of the first people that I've seen couch it this way, is that this technology interface could be an important inflection point for us plugging back into a more satisfying way of life.
Yeah, I wonder how that will actually happen. I've seen it a little bit, like my daughter that's really similar age as yours. We're homeschool family. This is year 7 or 8 of homeschool, and along with that for us has been a no phone type concept. And it's, for our family, it has just been no, and I don't know when that will arise, but when that arises, it'll happen organically. So there was never like no phone until X date. It was just no, because I know the dangers of it, but I also want you to be an educated child with technological skills. But my oldest, who did go through a season of, can I please have a phone? Can I please have a phone? Can I please have a phone? And it was kind of no. And then she's clever, and she'd give us these full phone presentations, like a PowerPoint presentation. Yeah. So funny. And then we would, which is really hard to say no to a 12-year-old that gives you this like PowerPoint presentation that they created on their own, with their own time and their own intuition. And so, but it was no. And just this year, she's been commenting a lot around like, I don't even want a phone. My friends are just on them all the time. And that caught me off guard. She just said it the other day, and I was like, whew. Like, I think like people are going to start kind of realizing a little bit that the older ways of life have some great benefit, and we need to figure out how to incorporate those ways into the new ways.
Yeah, it's funny. We were no, and then we did this Gab phone, which is a very like neutered type of phone. You can also do like an iPhone, and you just set it so like you get 30 seconds on whatever. Like you don't get a browser, or you get it for like 30 seconds or whatever. I've been incredibly frustrated because like music was a really important part of my life as a kid. And there's no elegant way of getting music to your kids that isn't a phone.
Yeah.
They used to have an iPod Touch, which was awesome. Yeah. Like it was networked. It could plug into your iTunes. And it makes me crazy that Apple got rid of that thing, but they knew. They were like, well, this is a workaround to keep you out of the phone ecosystem. And so they dispensed with it. And I feel like that was such a disservice to humanity, because it's like, I want my kids to be able to listen to music, and like their Gab music thing is awful. Like, it really is. Like, it's supposed to be like trying to keep the music clean and everything. And my kids show me what it does and doesn't include. I'm like, this thing's ridiculous. Like, it is embarrassingly bad, you know? It's kind of like, I'm more of a, just like, let them get exposed to whatever, and let them make decisions, you know? But this like uber curated thing, I'm like, this is ridiculous, you know? It's awful. So they don't have an easy way to just listen to music, you know? And that is something that then is kind of like, well, then maybe it necessitates a phone, because like the iPhone, at least you could do Spotify, or you could do this, or you could do that. And, it's funny. There are a few things like the Gab phone. There's a few other things out there that are trying to fill these gaps, but there are some things like legitimately just being able to call something. So also with these Gab phones, and I feel bad beating up on them. I'm sure they're great people. But trying to make the kids be more self-starters. They're like, hey, Dad, I need this book. I'm like, have you called Barnes & Noble? I can't call Barnes & Noble because it's not in my approved thing.
Oh, yeah. Like, we ran into some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The music one is interesting, because we ran into that same problem, and we still haven't figured it out. And music was like going and getting tapes and CDs as a kid was so awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And just listening to those albums over and over again. Yeah.
And there's not really an easy, like they do sell some CDs now, but it's kind of hard to track down, and it there's not an easy, elegant way, but it all is definitely set up to be this slipstream into like the full phone experience, you know, which is then the social media, texting, and all that stuff. I will say, even with the Gab phone, as limited as it is, my oldest will text friends. They don't get back to her immediately, and she will go from being in a pretty good mental state to like crushed because everybody's busy. And I'm like, well, all of these other kids are in like regular school. Like, they're gone for 8 hours of the day. They're not homeschooling, and they do some sports, and so the timing doesn't match up. But that expectation that there's immediate, instant communication, and if there's not, then it's perceived as rejection, is like a big deal. And it was something that I wouldn't have predicted. It's like, well, she's not on social media, she's not posting selfies, so we're not going to deal with the downward spiral of like trying to get likes and all that stuff. But it still is just, there's an expectation of instant comms. And when that doesn't happen, then it'll take her from being in a great mental space to crushed. And then it makes you want to like break the phone.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, we were doing great today. Like, what happened? Yeah.
Yeah, the psychology of that.
Yeah.
The chats and the texts and the group chats.
Whereas like I'm older than you are, but I remember like we had a wall phone, and it had a long ass cord that I went and bought at Radio Shack. It was like 20 feet of good coiled thing. And eventually then we ended up, and it was magic. It was the just wireless phone.
Oh yeah.
But it was still a landline.
Yeah.
But then I could go out in the backyard, and I could go here and go there. But it was like, that was also the phone for the house. So, and call waiting would click in, and it was like somebody from my mom or something, and I had to respond to that. But it was way different in that, like, when I got to connect with my friends, I really connected with them, whether it was a girlfriend or, buddies or whatever. We really talked, and we weren't just like farting around, like shipping emojis back and forth. And then when it was done, it was done. And then I was either 100% in or I was 100% out. Whereas with this constant companion, like like, our kids have not been involved with this, but we've heard other people mention their kids will end up at a sleepover, and they're all hanging out, like texting each other at the sleepover.
Right in front of each other.
Madness.
I know.
That's crazy.
The madness, and then the extra stress of just feeling uncomfortable because someone didn't text you right
Yeah.
back that we didn't
Yeah.
have to deal with.
Yeah.
And that's just an additional stress to add on top of the additional stressors that are already out there.
Just being a teenager.
Yeah.
Like, that's a hot mess under the best of circumstances, Yeah.
So kind of like to close us out, I think it's really cool that we're having this conversation, because when individuals hear this type of conversation, sometimes they think it's unrealistic to completely pull off the grid and live this nomadic lifestyle set apart from culture and society. And I think the cool thing about you and I chatting about it, to tie it all together, is there's always things that are going well and there's always things that aren't going well related to this conversation. But you also are a successful entrepreneur. You're a successful author. We were talking before we walked into the studio today, just the enormous success of LMNT and what LMNT has been able to do over the last handful of years. So I just want the listeners to know that Robb Wolf is not this guy living up in a cave outside of Bozeman, homeschooling his kids in the cave in loincloths. Like, you, just like everyone, are dealing with, how do I feel good with this high-paced, high-technology world? And sometimes it goes well and sometimes it doesn't. You're always learning. But there are ways to feel better than many people feel right now. And I think part of that is there is a FOMO part of that too, where like if I am the guy with just the fax machine running a business, you have to be willing to not worry about what the rest of the world is doing to get there as well. But one of the reasons that I love like diving into this conversation with you is, successful business owner, entrepreneur, author, but I know you, I know you're fit. I know you're a great dad. I know you are great around the topic and idea of community and brotherhood. So I just want the listeners to know that we're not talking about you living in a cave. We're talking about listening to your body and kind of making some changes. For more than a century, America's sportsmen and women have led the way in paying for the restoration of wildlife, conserving habitat, and investing in the future of our natural world. This is a legacy built not on what we take ourselves, but on what we give back. That's the nature of conservation, paying it forward for the next generation. This is the reason Mountain Tough is a proud partner of Wild Sheep Foundation, an organization committed to keeping and putting wild sheep on the mountain. If you're not already a member, learn more today at wildsheepfoundation.org.
Thank you. And also, I just want to mention, to the degree I get this right, it's because my wife and I really committed to this iterative process, and we call it trying on the sweater. It's like we give this thing a shot, and how does it work? And we really try to convey that to our kids. Perfection isn't the goal. The goal is constant improvement and being able to acknowledge, hey, this thing didn't work, whatever. I was having a very heavy conversation with my wife and my oldest and myself yesterday, just trying to sort through some stuff. And there was not a dry eye in the bunch that was there, not to derail this, but I had a kind of a funky upbringing with my mom. She would bottle emotion and then it would explode. And so funny enough, like guys being angry at me, like it's like, oh, that's fine. We'll just fight and we'll sort it out, and there will be a pecking order, and that's great. It's easy. Women being upset and emotional around me terrified me for a long time. Like it was very uncomfortable to deal with. It's still uncomfortable. I'm much more comfortable with like a guy is coming at me like with fists. I'm like, oh, okay, I can handle this. Like I'll either win or he'll kick the shit out of me, and then we'll go get a drink and it'll be fine. It's no big deal. But like this upset female energy was very difficult for me to deal with. But I've really committed to being calm and being honest. Like not like I expressed some real upset that I had with the oldest daughter yesterday, and it was emotional for me. It was emotional for her, but it came across what she even just said later. She was like, that was really honest, and it landed for her. Instead of it being reactively received, and because I wasn't escalating and getting angry. Like it's funny, I think with men there's a tendency for anger to supplant emotion. And that's certainly been my MO.
For sure.
But I had this honest, raw, deep conversation. She got up today. The first thing she did was like beeline for me, bone-crushing hug. And I was like, okay, we're good. Yesterday sucked. I mean, yesterday sucked. Like, I went to bed, and I went to bed early, and I was just like, if I had like 100 milligrams of Valium, I would take it right now. I just want to go to sleep. I want it all to go away, but I had a good night's sleep. I got up. My daughter still loved me. She loved me maybe even a little bit more. But I also want to point out, it doesn't all go good. But the thing that it's not always good moment to moment, but I've really committed to like, man, I'm invested. I'm going to iterate. And for myself, I've had to learn how to be okay with the emotionality of women in my life. I'm surrounded by women. It's like I have myself and a cat that are male in my house. Everything else is female.
I'm in the same boat. Same boat.
Yeah. And I've had to really, and again, it's this funny thing of like, I just have to be comfortable with them being upset and expressing emotion. And it's like, your world's not going to burn down. That is not your mom. Like things have changed, and I've had to learn a lot with that, but I just want to throw that out there. It's easy. And I think one of the things that people do online, either they overshare they're trying to document every struggle in their life. And I think that's kind of oversharing. Then the flip side is like, oh, we spend our lives in between Cabo and Rome, and everything's perfect. And it's like those are not reality, But I think committing to an iterative process and being honest is so valuable as a husband, as a father, as a brother in arms trying to get through this life.
Yeah, the human side of it, that we are all humans, and we are all dumpster fires in a lot of ways, and we're just going to learn and kind of strive and fight through this together.
Yeah. And that's good. That's good. And you have to give yourself some grace for that process. It's not always going to look great. It's not always going to be easy. Like I said, yesterday, I just wanted out. And it's not like I wanted to run away from my family, but it was like 10 minutes away would be really good right now.
It is funny how similar we are in that regard, because I have the 2 daughters, my wife, and 2 female dogs and 1 male dog. And the emotions of my oldest daughter are probably one of the most difficult things that I have to encounter in my whole entire life. I don't feel equipped or intellectually in the right spot to know how to handle them. It's so difficult. It's like no one ever trained me for this moment either.
My wife shared something. She's been reading a lot just on hormones, the female cycle, young women growing up and whatnot. And this will anger somebody, but there's a cognitive neuroscientist, MD, PhD female who's the book writer who said this. She said, if you were to take an adolescent girl and give her like a cognitive stability test, they would log as psychotic because they're like up and then they're down. Like 1 minute they would come at you with a knife, and the next minute they're hugging you and like, oh, Dad, you're the best thing ever. I love you so much. And it would absolutely tick the box of psychopathy.
Yeah.
And so you're dealing with a psychopathic person for some period of time until the super high and low starts turning into a more normal, stable line. Yeah. But there's a period of time where whether you arrived at the thing well-equipped or not, I didn't arrive at that well-equipped. And I've had to learn really quickly. And my wife's been a saint in helping me with that. But under the best of circumstances, let's say you had a very emotionally, spiritually buttoned up family, lots of good communication. Young men are similar too, just in that young men generally, like, their frontal lobe is just not fully formed, and so they just have no concept of like consequences or anything. It's just whole other thing.
Fear.
And this is why biology makes a few more men than women, because not all of us make it through. We don't make it through the sorting process. But under the best of circumstances, like that, parenting through the teenage years, your kids are kind of crazy. And they're going through that last gasp of like super rapid change. And I think also that like once they hit like high school, you're kind of like, oh man, I got 4 more years. Like there's a study that by the time they're a sophomore, they've spent 97% of the time they're going to spend with you. And you're
such
just
a
like,
hard
no
stat.
way.
Oh,
yeah.
That one hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I just felt like I was in such a fumbling mode of dealing with like a newborn and then a toddler, and it just goes by so incredibly, quickly that you're just kind of like, okay, I just do the best that I can to be present and be there for them, but also recognize that they and I can be crazy at various points, and just try to do the best I can with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I think you just really kind of nailed it there at the end, because I think the magic is being in the present, and being in the present takes some intentionality. Because even if you ignore all the stuff we talked about on today's podcast with the screens and the technology, there's still a tremendous amount trying to steal your focus on the present moment. For me, it was business. And I would be driving the girls home from gymnastics, talking to them. And my youngest, she was like 9 when she said this. She's like, Dad, I talked to you the whole way home and you are not listening. And I was like, oh, like a 9-year-old told me that. And I was like, well, I respond the whole way home, but I'm not listening, because I'm trying to solve these like 14 other business problems as I'm responding to a 9-year-old. And that started for me this like, it is the present. The present is where all life's greatest moments happen. And we can't be there at all if we're distracted by countless other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we are out of time. To wrap us up, just quickly, what would you say to the like 30 or 40-year-old, great job, office job, but just isn't really feeling that well? What would you encourage him to do?
There's great stuff out there. There's like Huberman. Huberman's great. But I think also, to your point, this is some of the stuff you were mentioning before. If you do the full Huberman protocol, it's like an 8-hour day. There's too much there, and it's super simple. You need to be outside more. Unless you're a lumberjack, you need to be outside more. That's the only cross section of people. Like if you install fencing or you're a lumberjack, then it's okay, you get a pass. But still, like, sit outside and read outside. Find a dragon to slay that isn't work and isn't chasing women. It's like you need some personal something, whether it's jujitsu or archery or something that is like a dragon you got to slay. And jiu-jitsu is nice because you get that community. Doesn't matter how good you are. If somebody's 100 pounds heavier than you, it's going to be a rough day. You know, there's so much great learning there, but you get the community element also. So like that be outside, have a dragon to slay. And then I really think your point here at the end, like whatever you can do to be in the moment. It was a couple of years ago, my wife took a book, and it's called Stress Less, Accomplish More. It's a meditation book, very simple. And she actually just photocopied like the paragraph of how to do the thing. And it's like you think about what's, do I taste anything? Do I smell anything? Do I hear anything? Do I feel anything? It's called coming to your senses. And then I just say one. It's kind of like a mantra or whatever, like I'm one with everything. And that thing saved my life. Like she dropped that on me in a very stressful period of time. But in using that, or just using prayer, like whatever it is, but if you can have a strategy for being in the moment, that's a superpower. Yeah. Like I've told my kids, breath work and being able to modify your emotional state, it's the closest thing to like Jedi powers or magic that exists.
I agree.
Period. If you can be plugged into the moment and you can take your heart rate from 90 to 40 in like a minute because you have that control, you can do the equivalent of magic in your life. And I think those are very accessible things. Some breath work, get outside, have a dragon to slay. Like those things will transform your life.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you, Rob. Appreciate you coming by today.
Thanks for having me.
That was awesome.